people who put faith in something that causes great consternation to others and even throughout history. Today, it's very popular in our scientific age to try and explain away the mysterious, the seemingly miraculous, the unexplainable. In Jesus' day and age, the idea of somebody coming back from the grave was just as outrageous as it is today. And the disciples struggled with this news, trying to make sense of the story, to come to grips with their experience, wondering in their own ways, just like any of us would today, whether we were beginning to come a little unscrewed upstairs. In this story from John's Gospel, we see Mary Magdalene, who finds the tomb empty, is shocked, frightened, who goes back to Peter for some support and to that mysterious, mystery beloved disciple who race to the tomb, find it empty, and of course the mystery disciple believes, even though nobody really understands anything. But they just go off back to their home. Mary stays there weeping, and then sees Jesus, doesn't recognize him, finally gets it and carries the message to the others. Mark's gospel story, Mark's rendition, tells the story very differently. Mary Magdalene comes to the tomb in the morning with a companion to anoint the body. And the tomb's open, and Jesus is gone. They see an angel who tells them he's been raised from the dead. Go tell the others. But they don't say anything to anybody. They're terrified. Later on, Mary Magdalene does see Jesus. She tells the story to the disciples, and they don't believe her. Jesus appears to two other of the disciples who tell the story, and they still don't believe it. Finally, Mark tells of Jesus showing himself to a large gathering of disciples and chastising them for not believing, and then giving them more instructions. Matthew, of course, tells the story with his own drama. There is a great earthquake as the ladies arrive at the tomb in the morning. They see an angel come down from heaven and roll the stone to the side and proclaim that Jesus has been raised. The power and the point of these stories and these different renditions is that this is a mysterious thing they don't understand. They're trying to make sense of it. They're trying to reassure one another because it's just too much. The Gospels tell us all kinds of stories of Jesus' appearances after the resurrection. We have that wonderful story of the road to Emmaus, where two disciples, after Jesus' death, decide, we're going home, and they head out from Jerusalem back to their home. They meet Jesus on the road, and they don't recognize him. They travel most of the day together talking about the Scriptures. And it's not until they get home and invite Jesus to have the evening meal with them that they finally recognize him. Next Sunday, we'll share the story of Doubting Thomas, who's not there at the gathering when Jesus appears before this group of disciples and doesn't believe what they've got to tell him. In our own day and age, we tend to repeat a lot of the old conspiracy theories as well as concoct a few of our own. How could people believe in this resurrection? One of the earliest stories is also talked about in Matthew's Gospel. He relates the story of the guards that had been at the tomb, reporting what happened, and being paid off by the Sanhedrin to spread the story that his disciples came and stole by. And if you get in trouble about this, about, letting them steal the body, we'll make it right for you with Pilate. In the next generation, the story circulates that Jesus didn't actually die on the cross. He was drugged so that it looked like he was dead. And the Roman guards fell for it. The disciples took him down and nursed him back to health, which is probably the most ridiculous of them all. The Roman executioners were accomplished and frankly sadistic professionals. They weren't going to be fooled by anybody. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew how it worked. And we have that tidbit in the story of the soldiers breaking legs on other crucifixion victims so they'll die faster before the great holy day. They come to Jesus and see that he's dead already, but they don't walk off. They shove a lance through his chest to make sure. Nobody's going to fool these characters. In our own day and age, even some of our own theologians like to talk about the experience of Jesus' resurrection in the terms of a grief-driven hallucination, which is a documented psychological phenomenon. But that pattern doesn't fit the stories. When an individual is suffering from loss and grief in a way that they hallucinate the return of the loved one, they always recognize him immediately. It's a joyful reunion. They're happy to be back. In the stories of Jesus' resurrection, they don't recognize him. They're afraid. They're shocked. They don't get it. They don't know how to talk about it. My brothers and sisters, we don't know literally what happened in the dark of that night. We don't know literally how Jesus was able to come back to his disciples. What we do have is their testimony that they experienced him alive again and back among them. The best way they could tell that story and describe it is what's preserved for us in the New Testament. He's back. We touched him. We shared meals with him. He talked to us. We talked to him. As people of faith, as Christians, we're not about promoting a claim of something that's impossible. We're about embracing a mystery. That there's more going on in our universe than we know or understand. That there's more possibilities in our universe than science has teased out. That the mysticism of that first generation of Christians, experiencing Jesus back among them, is as solid and real as the mysteries and mysticisms in which we experience God in our own lives today. Instead of trying to explain it away, as Christians we embrace the mystery. We embrace the mysticism. We share stories among ourselves of how God has impacted our lives. How the Spirit of Christ alive among us today transforms us and empowers us and changes our lives. We share the stories today that were shared by our ancestors in faith. But somehow, in the mystery of it all, God, who came into our world and was heralded as Emmanuel, God with us, did not leave. did not disappear, but returned and continues to be among us, empowering and energizing and transforming our lives. My brothers and sisters, let us embrace the mystery. Let us not fear the mysticism. Let us be people of the resurrection.